Good evening, everybody, and thanks as always for joining us here on Speed Racing Network. We've got some Truck Series action for you tonight. I'm Greg Olenek here with my co-host, Brandon Domain, as always. Brandon, how is it going tonight?
Well, it is going fantastic, and I will completely hijack and possibly call you out on this one. But happy birthday, Greg! Is coming in on the old birthday, so appreciate that. And it's Indy tonight, getting a cutoff race for these truck guys. We had the cutoff race for Xfinity and Cup last week at Auto Club. Truck's a week behind, so we do it at the Brickyard, and why not? As we got a track that is already going to be pretty dramatic for these guys with how narrow the racing lines are. Let's add a little bit more intensity to it with the elimination coming at the end of this race.
Yeah, I just couldn't resist the drama of a cutoff race on my birthday, so I had to come in and do the show tonight with you as always. But yeah, we had great races last week for Cup Series and Xfinity playoff cutoff races, so expect the same here tonight. I kind of like that it's a little bit different in the Truck Series, gives us a little more element of drama here. But yeah, it's going to be a great one tonight. We got some tough drivers here on the cut line, Jonathan Byer being one of them. What do you expect is going to happen? Do you think it's going to be a clean race, or are we going to have a lot of wrecks here tonight, Brandon?
I think it's going to kind of follow that trend that I think we'll see a few early. There's a lot more grip with these trucks than there are in doing Xfinity practice than there is in the Xfinity cars. So I think that's going to make this a whole lot more interesting going around Indy. But it's still going to be very tough to go too wide through some of these turns. And that's going to make it real tough. I think there's going to be some aggression early on, and we might see a couple early cautions. Hopefully they filter it out after that, though.
Yeah, it's just going to come down to seeing who can save their stuff the best. As always, I expect a lot of green flag racing here tonight with a big track like Indianapolis. But moving on here, let's go ahead and tell you what we got for you tonight. It's the Hoosier 110, week 3 of the round of 15 here in the Truck Series at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 45 laps tonight and one fast repair, as always, in case they get themselves into some trouble. So that is going to come in huge for some of these drivers here trying to get inside that cut.
Absolutely will be huge. I think in the mid-pack, we've kind of seen some of that. Some early cautions play out among all three of the series in these playoffs so far. I kind of expect similar tonight. I don't think a lot of guys are going to fully know what to expect in a big pack going around this racetrack. I absolutely love the trucks going around Indy. I think it's a blast to drive them, but it's still a really tricky track that's going to require that focus every single turn of every one of these 45 laps.
Let's get into the league details, as always, here on the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show. It's a 20-week fixed setup league here. One fast repair, like we said, and these drivers are paying $5 a week to race for weekly and season payouts. $300 going to the first place champion. And we also have 5-person teams here in SRN as well, and they are battling in a separate playoff bracket for a $100 team championship prize. So a lot going on this time of year here at SRN.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a lot about the individual side and the team side also going to be having that cutoff as well, and we're going to whittle it down to the final 4 in that team bracket, and then they'll have that next round to settle out what 2 teams will be going to Atlanta, along with our 5 drivers that'll be going there to possibly win a championship here in SRN.
Yeah, so we will sort that out and look at the brackets a little bit later on here in the show. But let's go ahead and see, as always, what these guys are racing for tonight. First place, going to come home with $15, tripling their money. Second place, going to win $10. And third through fifth, going to get their money back. So it's time to start adding that money up and maybe start paying for next season, Brandon, if you can start racking up enough top fives.
Next season, Christmas shopping, Hanukkah, whoever knows. There's a whole lot of things around this time of year that
expensive time of year.
Yeah, so pocketing a little extra money, or at least getting money back with a top 5, never a bad thing, especially to do it at a track that's tough as Indy. There might be a little bit more pride going into that $5, $10, or $15 here this week.
Yeah, and if you want to send it my way for my birthday, that's always an option too, but that's up to you. No, I'm just kidding. But let's go ahead and move on next and see what these guys are racing for season championship-wise here. In first place, like we already said, going to come home with $300. Second place, going to get $150. Third, going to get $90. Fourth place, going to get $60. And if you make that final 5 race, in Atlanta, you're going to make at least $40. But then we also got drivers racing for money in Atlanta as well. If you're outside the top 5, 6th going to come home with $30, 7th going to get $20, and 8th place going to get $10.
Yeah, if you're one of the drivers that advances to the round of 10 after tonight, you know that you have an 80% chance of walking away with a little extra money. Really good shot, a 30% shot of making back almost the entire season fees, if not more than that, if you finish second or first. So still a lot of money to be racing for these guys throughout the rest of this season, and a lot of that gets determined tonight.
Well, let's go ahead and move on now here in the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show, and I believe this is going to be the Beer Street Journal Beer of the Week presented by Sean Griffith.
This week's Beer Street Journal Beer of the Week comes out of Buskey Cider in Virginia. It's called Buskey Sherry Barrel Aged Cider. Now, Buskey's always been known for their hard ciders, but co-owner El Correll had always wanted to try something. Will Correll, the other co-owner, said that El's been scheming to get a sherry barrel to make cider since the day that Buskey was born. In December of 2019, she finally got her wish when they got access to some Oloroso sherry barrels and started aging a premium blend of Virginia apples in it. Almost 2 years later, the cider is finally ready to serve. The result of the aged blend and the sherry barrels has given us a nutty, raisin-like character with a citrusy finish. Now you can pick up a bottle of Buskey Sherry Barrel Aged Cider, available all over Virginia. The Beer of the Week is brought to you by BeerStreetJournal.com, the leading online publication for craft beer reviews. Go to BeerStreetJournal.com to find your next great beer. And as always, you must be 21 to enjoy, and please drink responsibly.
Thanks as always to Beer Street Journal for this week's Beer of the Week. Buskey Cider out of Northern Virginia. Brandon, are you a cider guy? I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah, I don't mind them. It's not necessarily my go-to, but this time of year especially, it kind of gets a little bit more enticing. This one, just for the bottle alone, I really like that. That's a cool-looking bottle. But that one just sounds good. That'd be something I would definitely keep an eye out for.
Well, yeah, if you're interested in learning more about Buskey Cider's Sherry Barrel Aged Cider, go ahead and check it out on BeerStreetJournal.com. And thanks as always again for them coming on board this season with Speed Racing Network. But let's go ahead now and check out the team championships here. And this is the bracket I spoke of at the top of the show. Jonathan Byer with a big lead over Bobby Anderson Racing. Going to need a lot to go wrong on JBR's end of the track for Bobby Anderson to possibly upset our number 1 seed. Zeos Racing down there against Tank Racing for the 4-5 matchup. That's going to be our closest matchup of the night, Brandon, and I think that's going to be who we're paying attention to most out there on track.
Yeah, I mean, that 22-point gap is real close, especially compared to the rest of them, but all of them still mathematically possible that anybody can advance. Of course, I think at this point, Bobby Anderson Racing, the do-gooders, even to a little bit of an extreme there, Stryker Motorsports, all going to need a whole lot to go in their direction tonight to possibly pull that upset. But we'll take a look first with Bobby Anderson Racing trying to make up that gap against JBR.
Yeah, and you see it right there. Bobby Anderson Racing definitely able to get some good finishes with Bobby Anderson himself coming home in 6th last week. Jason Crackey coming home in 19, so not too bad, but they only had 2 trucks out there on track, so that is going to hurt them in any matchup. And Landon Cardulo coming home in 1st with his teammate also coming home on a podium position in 3rd. That is going to be tough to top anytime.
This has just been a numbers game, and Jonathan Byer Racing has pretty much had a power play the entire time with Bobby Anderson Racing just not being able to field a full team. I don't believe they would do that. Actually, no, I do see all 3 of them tonight, so they should have all 3 tonight out on the track, but at this point, they're going to need a whole lot of help, and with JBR being as consistent as they've been, that might be a long shot.
Yeah, you see it right there. They needed 43 points, which is an average finish of 27th to clinch. So definitely within reach for JBR. But moving on, we're taking a look at our 2-7 matchup between our 2 teams, respectively, Brandon. And it's only a 49-point lead for Rev Racing. So definitely manageable for Stryker Motorsports. But Rev had a really good run last week with Michael Madden coming home in 4th and Sean Jensick coming home in 5th. And Cody Riggs having a good run coming home in 13th. So a good points day for them.
Yeah, it was a great points day for Rev'd and Stryker right now. I wouldn't say I would say not to count them out of it thus far, because I'm looking at the speed charts right now. They got a couple drivers inside the top 10, so they might be having a good night. And also, Indy is just one of those tracks. One mistake puts you into the wall, and there's just a whole lot that can happen here. So I think 49 points, that is something that can be made up tonight. Just going to take some work to do it.
Yeah, tough to maneuver around those incidents out there on track when they do occur. So definitely something that could happen to either side here. But let's go ahead now check out our 3-6 matchup between the Next Level Motorsports team and the Do-Gooders. And this is the one that's a little bit out of a reach for Do-Gooders. 102-point gap for Next Level Motorsports, coming home in second place with Brad Herman last week, and 11th and 7th for Michael York and Brad Rivers. So a good day for them. And, I mean, Do-Gooders had a good day as well at Auto Club. DuPont coming home 14th, with Smith and Knight coming home 22nd, 23rd.
Yeah, and on the speed chart, Next Level has a good advantage over the Do-Gooders coming into this one as well. But like we were just talking about, one thing can go wrong, and it can kind of bottleneck and cause problems for a lot of people. So that's one of those things that can happen. It's going to take a perfect night, though, for the Do-Gooders to make up that 102-point gap.
All right, well, let's go ahead and check out the last matchup in our team championship playoff quarterfinals. It's Zeos Racing against Tank Racing, the 4-5, and it's a close one. Just like their seedings, only a 22-point gap for Tank Racing.
And this one has lived up to the billing. We knew that this was going to be the marquee matchup of the opening round, and it has absolutely done that. You can see just that 22-point gap, and it's really just been each one of these teams has done a great job of managing any points lost in the middle of the race. I mean, you can see that there's 3 of the drivers here out of these 6 that were the top scoring for their teams outside of the top 20, but it's all about making sure that you don't risk too many points trying to make it up, or just not sacrificing too many points. They've all done a good job of that when trouble has come. And then they've also, you've got Blair Holloman, Jacob Zala, Josh Mueller, all putting together strong finishes as well.
Let's go ahead, check out these individual standings before we get into the driver introductions here. And I'll go ahead and have you take a look at that 10th place position there. Jonathan Byer falling all the way from 1st to 10th at Auto Club, and just 1 point above the cut line with Josh Mueller within striking distance there. So Jonathan Byer going to have to really be careful out there today at Indy. But Brad Herman going to be our number 1 driver right now coming into Indy, followed by Jacob Zala and Landon Cardulo. So a lot going on after Auto Club last week, Brandon.
Yeah, nobody locked in, nobody safe here in this one, and nobody eliminated either. So everybody all still left in the running here. There's going to be some more work needed for guys like Mike Mosby that are 34 points back, but still something that can be made up tonight. Jonathan Byer, I mean, you mentioned it, went from 1st to 10th after that last race, and it was really an uncharacteristic position that he got himself into that led to that drop. That can easily happen here at Indy, too.
Yeah, it's easy to just find yourself in trouble here in the playoffs, but he's going to have to prevail here at Indy if he wants to see his playoff run and a fantastic season for the 66 continue and possibly have a chance to win that $300 here in the Truck Series. But let's go ahead now and bring in our driver introductions here on the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show. First up is going to be our first place driver, the 85 of Brad Herman, out of Next Level Motorsports, racing from New York. 2 wins this season, and he started late and has already worked himself up to the top of the league, so it says a lot about Brad Herman. And that average start of 6th and average finish of 9th really helps out his cause with a bunch of points week in and week out.
He's in a solid position in that first place spot, still not locked in. Somebody in a similar spot currently in second is Jacob Zala, our Darlington winner earlier this season, and we always kind of mention it's a little bit of a roller coaster for him, but he's one of those drivers that when he's on, he is on, and it kind of is indicative of that 17th place average finish, but he's really gotten a lot of momentum, and I think he's kind of minimized the mistakes on track these past few weeks, and it's really led to him shooting up the point standings.
Yeah, Zala's shown a lot of growth this year. Another driver showing a lot of growth this year is our 3rd place driver, the 13 of Landon Cardulo, last week's winner at Auto Club, racing out of JBR from California. An average start of 10th place, average finish of 9th. And he started with 17 bonus points, got himself into trouble in that first race, but really helped his cause last week with a W in Fontana.
Next up is going to be Bobby Anderson, the team captain and owner of Bobby Anderson Racing, obviously. Best finish on the season, 7th. But what he does is what he did last season. He's doing it again this season, just finding himself in those positions where he just gets enough points to continue to advance into the playoffs and through the playoffs. He's really finding that similar pace here this season again.
Well, next up in our driver introductions is going to be Blair Holloman out of Zuyos Racing, and this guy has really come on strong here in his rookie season in SRN. 1 win with an average start of 8th and an average finish of 12th, so he has really proven himself as a worthy contender here in the SRN Truck Series. We'll see what he can do tonight in this cutoff race at Indianapolis.
Yeah, he's looking good, but only 7 points clear. Just 6 points clear of the cut line as Michael Madden, one of the hottest drivers from last season, really started to build momentum as this season has gone on. But we still haven't seen that dominant version of that 15 truck like we saw last year. But I think that's something that can be due at any time here the rest of this season.
Well, next up is his Rev Racing teammate Sean Jensick Racing out of New Jersey. 3 wins on the year, and I just want to go ahead and point that out because in this elimination race, he is only 4 points above the cut line. So he is really going to have to take it easy out there and be careful in that 29 for Rev Racing. So we'll see what Sean Jensick can do, see if he can get his 4th win on the season.
Jensick looking for his 4th win. Kyle Wimble looking for his 1st, and it would be absolutely clutch as he comes in tonight 3 points ahead of that cut line, and that's after rallying with that 3rd place finish last week, matching his best finish on the season. For him, it's just keep the truck clean, and he'll normally put together a solid finish. That's going to be what he needs to do tonight to hang on to one of those spots in the green.
9th place is going to be Lucas Lyons in that 7 machine, racing as independent, just 2 points above the cut line. So a best finish of 2nd so far with an average start of 11th and average of 16th. We've seen him run up front all year long. He's going to need that tonight here at Indy to really make sure he stays on the green side of these standings.
If you would have told me that this would have been the position for Jonathan Byer at the start of the playoffs, I would have said you were absolutely crazy. But Jonathan Byer right now 1 point to the good on the bubble, entering the cutoff race here tonight at Indy. That was after being the points leader going into that last race at Auto Club. Had a little bit of trouble, needs to find that momentum. But if there's anybody that can get back to that consistency of running up in front, this is about as safe of a bet as you can find here in the series.
Well, the guy that is going to be hunting down Jonathan Byer on the track, Josh Mueller in the 26 out of Tank Racing, sits 1 point behind Jonathan. So he is going to be hungry to find him out there and get past him. A best finish of 4th on the season, so he knows how to run up front. Average start of 16th, average finish of 14th. Josh Mueller looks to have a hard charge here at Indy to maybe make a spoiler and get in the top 10.
Well, it's 9 points separating 3rd from 11th. It's another 8 points back to 12th place Jack Johnson, the 4th JBR driver in the playoffs. And that's a gap that is definitely manageable this week to make up 9 points and try to move into the green, into that top 10. That's something easy to do, especially with only 1 driver between him and that cut line. So keep an eye on Jack Johnson, normally one of the safer drivers out there. That could go a long way tonight.
Yeah, and he's got JBR on his side, helping him make a push inside that top 10. But another one looking to make a push is Zuyos Racing's Dave Fuge Jr. This was the playoff lucky dog who snuck his way into the playoffs, so he is going to be looking to make up 12 points, possibly more, to get inside that top 10 and keep his hopes alive, racing for that $300.
Another one that's got a solid shot of making up a 15-point gap tonight is Michael York out of Next Level Motorsports. We've seen him be very clutch when it comes to these cutoff races leading into the playoffs, where he did have that best finish of 3rd. That is something he can definitely do once again tonight. He would need a finish about like that to possibly make that jump into the top 10.
In 15th is going to be Joseph DuPont, sitting 17 points back of Jonathan Byer on the cut line, looking to really he's got to pretty much win this race tonight to make up enough points to get inside the cut. We'll see if he can do it. Best finish of 6th on the season. Could he possibly make the Hail Mary and get inside the top 10 after this race at Indy?
It's a 17-point gap for him. You got to go another 17 points back. 34 out for Mike Mosby, but with the field that we have tonight, it is possible for him to have that ultimate just long shot to move back into it, but he's going to need to win. He's going to need some help, but that is something that he is capable of. You see that best finish of 4th. He's shown that he's got the speed to run up in front, and he's one of those Zuyos drivers that has shown the ability this season to really come up and surprise people on some of these tracks. This could be one of those nights where we see a wild card type finish here for Mike Mosby.
Yeah, he's run really well all season long. Missed last week's race at Auto Club, so has a little bit of a bigger hole to climb out of than the rest of these guys, but we'll see who has it here at Indy. And Brandon, I know you're excited for this one. You said it's a lot of fun to race around here, so I expect to see a great race with these guys out here for the Hoosier 110. But looking at our starting lineup, Brad Herman, our number 1 driver in the standings, going to be on the pole tonight with a 52.828, but 0.03 of a second behind him is just going to be Blair Holloman, so got some good speed in that 06. The Kyle Wimble machine starting in 3rd, and Bobby Anderson going to be in 4th.
In 5th place, we're going to have Sean Jensick, the 3-time race winner here this season. Outside of row 3 is going to be the first driver that's not top 10 in the playoff point standings. In 6th place, it's Dave Fuge Jr. 7th place is AJ Pritchett, not in the playoffs. He's joined by another driver that failed to make the playoffs on row number 4, and that'll be Kevin Winker out of Stryker Motorsports.
Starting 9th, going to be Michael York. Starting 10th, going to be last week's winner, Landon Cardulo in the 13 machine. Michael Madden going to be starting in 11th. And Jonathan Byer, that driver we're going to be paying a lot of attention to tonight, going to be starting in 12th. So we have a lot of headlines here heading into a cutoff race. As always, who do you think is going to take it away tonight and come home in victory lane, Brandon?
Well, there's a driver that did really well on the road courses this season, and he's got a great starting spot to possibly fend on any of these passing attempts that are going to be hard to come by. So I'm going to start outside front row with our Watkins Glen winner, and that's Blair Holloman. Very fast in practice, wasn't too far off on the pole time. I think road course racing does kind of translate pretty well to Indianapolis. It's not perfect, but it does do pretty well. I think that 06 is going to have a good night tonight.
I think that's a pretty good pick. Now I got to kind of reassess and take another driver, because I was going to take the 06. But I think I'm going to go ahead and look at that 5th place driver and take the 29 of Sean Jensick. He's really proven himself to be really fast on these big tracks here. And this is another 2-mile oval, you could call it. And I really expect Sean Jensick to be fast out there tonight. And, you know, I expect a lot of these drivers, nobody is safe from 3rd on down. You look at Landon Cardulo sitting there 3rd in the standings. He is only 9 points above that cut line. So there is going to be a lot of hard racing for these guys tonight to, you know, not let Josh Mueller or any of these guys sitting outside to sneak in.
And honestly, you said 3rd on back, nobody's safe. Nobody at all is safe with the size of the field that we have tonight. We got 34 trucks out there. That's a possible 39 points that can be made up when you look at a clean race, when you look at the lap led, most laps led, there's 40 points that can be made up tonight. 3 bonus points for winning a race on top of the positional scoring. So nobody is safe, as we only got 30 points from Brad Herman in the points lead back to Josh Mueller in 11th. So one mistake, we might see a tumble like we saw last week with our points leader at that point, Jonathan Byer. So this is going to be a real interesting race on how aggressive some of these guys are. And it's a start where 9 of the top 13 drivers all inside the top 10 in the playoff point standings entering tonight.
Yeah, and it being a Hail Mary effort by a lot of these guys, I can speak on behalf of it after last week at Auto Club. I had a similar case where I was racing my way into the playoffs, sitting outside. You're going to have to set yourself apart on strategy possibly, so a lot to pay attention to see who comes down to pit first and maybe put themselves out in front and maybe lead some laps here, and you never know, get lucky and catch a caution. So a lot to pay attention to here at Indy.
And the strategy is going to be real interesting. You know, I was doing my test drive on it. You can get about 21 laps aggressively. It's going to be a little bit more than that conservatively. 45-lap race. There's going to be some trying to stretch this onto a one-stop strategy if it stays green.
Yeah, definitely capable of doing that, just really hard on such a big track. But we are green for the Hoosier 110 at Indianapolis. First time here at SRN in the Truck Series. Going to be real exciting as we barrel down into turn 1. Brad Herman leading the way, but Blair Holloman fighting strong on the outside.
Blair given a lot of space on that outside line. That's hard to do and really control well in turn 1 and really any of these turns here at Indy. Side-by-side racing just kills any momentum, but that outside lane did work really well for Blair Holloman. He's going to take the lead going down the back straightaway for the first time.
Wow, a big statement by the 06 of Blair Holloman just to take it in the first set of turns. Brad Herman not even going to be able to lead a lap after getting the pole, so a big move by the 06. We'll keep an eye on him and see if he's able to maintain that lead. But really, everybody's single filing out, not too comfortable with racing side by side yet. Going to see the 06 drop down here and break the draft. And that is a widely disputed move by a lot of drivers, Brandon. Some people think it works. Some people don't really pay it much mind.
I mean, it does somewhat work, but at the end of the day, I mean, everybody's just following the same line eventually anyway. Wow, Brad Herman got real loose out of turn 1. We're going to see that a lot on these first couple laps, so these tires still kind of wear in. But, yeah, that's one of those things. It's really common at Indy to see this move, and I think it's just because a little bit of it is habit from seeing all the Indy 500 races where Indy cars do this predominantly, and you're just like, oh, that's how you got to run it at Indy. But, I mean, it does help a little bit, and with how long the front and back straightaway is here at Indianapolis, it's a long time to possibly build up a draft.
Wow, sorry, I almost interrupted you there. I just was watching Jonathan Byer on my blimp cam through my sim, and he almost got into, I believe, was Dave Hughes Jr., almost wrecked the 16, almost cost the 66, possibly a few spots there as well, but both drivers able to come away. Brad Herman, Michael Madden's just breaking up those two drivers now as Dave Hughes Jr. settles in behind him.
Couple laps in, tires should be pretty warm now at this point for everybody, and what they're going to experience is so much gentler than what we're going to experience tomorrow night on the Xfinity side. They have so much downforce in these trucks, and it just wants to really grip the track. You get great drive in and off of the turns. We're going to be sliding a lot more tomorrow. These trucks are just going to have a lot of bite to them through these turns.
Well, let's go ahead and take a closer look at Jonathan Byer's truck. I want to give him and his family a shout-out. They lost a family pet. Name was Abby, and I know they were really torn up about it this week, and rightfully so. It's never easy to lose a pet, so all of the JBR trucks are paying tribute to his dog, and it's really a nice gesture. We see this a lot here in SRN, and it just shows what a big family everybody is. You see it here on Landon Cardulo. But not there on the 35. There's James Kerr with the 75. That looks a really good-looking truck and a really nice gesture for Jonathan Byer and his family.
Really cool gesture indeed, and thoughts go out to the family, of course. And no real way to transition quickly to that, but Stan Carnathan off track and hard into the inside wall. That's going to be some heavy damage. He towed out, and that's going to cost him a couple minutes, so he's going to go at least a couple laps down before he can even repair that. We do stay green as that filtered off the track, though.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with iRacing, most of the time, if the wreck is not on the racing surface, it has a hard time triggering that caution, so that's exactly why we didn't see the yellow come out there. So tough break for the 43, going to have to tow and get that truck fixed if he wants to continue racing here tonight. But Blair Holloman's starting to open up that gap a little bit more over the 85. We see Jacob Zala wrecked here with a very wrecked truck. We're back under yellow here. So, wow, if that would have stayed green, that would have been huge for Jacob Zala.
And as slow as he's moving, he might not be fully under power at all, where he might be stuck and have to tow, and that's going to hurt him, but not nearly as bad as Stan Carnathan that we were talking about a moment ago. But keep in mind, Jacob Zala came into this race 17 points ahead of the cut line, definitely not safe and in a bad position early. As we check out our first Beer Street Journal rec replay of the night, this is what happened a couple laps ago to Stan Carnathan as he goes down into one. Big checkup and contact with Jacob Zala.
Must have had some kind of computer issue, or I'm not sure what happened there. It just looked slow. Possibly screens turned off. I see that happen a lot here on iRacing. But he's just running really slow, but doesn't look like he has anything wrong with the truck.
Whoa, that is...
Could be a pedal issue, maybe? I'm not sure.
That's about the only thing I could think of. But yeah, that would explain the big checkup. As I was wondering if there's something going on with one of the trucks nearby, and he just slowed up. And no, he was definitely away from being under power. And that is massive for Jacob Zala, who we've been talking about it. Nobody's safe. He's second in the point standings, but this is going to be a gigantic hit to him.
I'm curious to see what happens. He might just turn over. But the way he turned down into the drivers heading into turn one tells me that had to be a monitor issue. Like, he could not see, and he was just hoping to get to the inside, maybe get those monitors back on. But really, unlike Jacob Zala, to not see these guys, there is definitely something going on with his hardware, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm thinking you're right with the pedal issue, because you can see it shifting. So I'm thinking that's the pedals more than anything, because it might, maybe it's just bouncing out. That's a weird one. I'm not even going to try anymore. I was thinking that maybe he had the shifter on it, but he's going back up to speed. So whatever it was, he figured it out, but he's going to be a lap down already here on lap 6, and everybody going to come down pit road, and that's smart. This is going to guarantee that they will only need one more pit stop the rest of the way.
That is actually not too bad, though, for Jacob Zala. If he has to stay a lap down, that's going to give him a lot of time to have a possible caution come out, because this track being so big, it's going to be a while before these leaders catch any lap traffic. So Jacob going to be possibly in good shape to get that lap back and maybe make a push here. But it's definitely something to follow, as he is within striking distance to fall below that cut line. Kevin Winker opting to stay out, and we didn't speak on it, but he is the Tier 2 playoff leader right now for the drivers that didn't qualify in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. He came up just short of making the playoffs in his own right. But that Tier 2, it's been a great opportunity for the drivers that failed to make the playoff. I can speak from experience on that one. And but yeah, Kevin Winker putting together a great run. No, he's been putting in a lot of time out here on Indy this week, trying to get used to that track and feel it out. And it's paying off right now. Staying out, one of a handful of drivers to do so. See how that plays out for him. I think with this caution, though, it's going to make it where everybody, even those staying out, won't need to make a second pit stop. They'll be safe without having to conserve too much, but I'm curious how the tire wear is really going to hit them.
Yeah, and clean air could be huge for this 42 with about 5 or 6 people staying out. That's going to put a decent gap between him and those with fresh tires, so we'll see how it works out. It's always good to possibly put yourself in a position to learn a thing or two for this race or future races. So not a bad move by Kevin Winker, and maybe he just wants to lead some laps in that 42. But Dave Fuchs Jr. trying to make that Hail Mary we talked about. He's the one that sits 12 points off of the cut line right now. So Dave is trying to get a few spaces ahead of Jonathan Byer, but I have to imagine that it would be Jacob Zala sitting on that cut line right now. So it's hard to follow these things live, but Brandon, we're going to try our best.
Yeah, that's man, that's a tough break for Jacob still. If it was a a tech issue that he had, which that's what it does seem like from everything there. But I mean, you just kind of relate it to having a mechanical issue in a real life vehicle, in a truck or a car. I mean, that's just the iRacing version of it. Sometimes it bites you, and it never seems to happen at the right time.
Yeah, so we'll see if he's able. Not sure if he used that fast repair or not. I have to imagine he did. He had a decent amount of damage on that 25 machine. But, the one benefit to racing at Indianapolis is, if you do have to come down to fix some damage, it being such a big track, you might have enough time to get it all fixed.
Yeah, I mean, under caution, you're looking at about, 2.5 minutes or so for these guys going around the track. So about 2, and that was even coming off the pit road. So a little bit up on the speed there. So about 2.5 minutes per lap under caution. Long time to get some damage repaired, especially if you have that fast repair. I would imagine that was used early, just trying to prevent going multiple laps down. That might be my idea on it. But yeah, this is a long track. I don't think you're going to see many people get put a lap down naturally without an issue on track.
Well, the first truck with fresh tires is going to be that 18 of Bobby Anderson sitting in 5th. So we'll keep an eye on him, see if he's able to move his way up through the field. Sitting in 4th right now in the standings, but just 8 points above the cut line. So good run by the 18. Maybe going to be able to get by these trucks on older tires and separate himself from the field.
Now, I'm curious if Anderson and Lyons possibly took 2 tires. I don't quite have that on my information screen.
They did, yep.
They did. So, yeah, that explains the jump. Blair Holloman went up, fell back to the 8th position. Curious to see if he can replicate that charge through the field now that he's not up front on this restart.
Yeah, a lot to follow, as I also believe see Jonathan Byer down there in 15th now. Somebody in the wall. I believe that's
Zach Burgesson in the wall.
Yeah. Got stuck there, and he's going to lose a lot of spots as he is well behind the momentum of the rest of these trucks so far. So tough break for him. Restarted in 4th, already falling to 7th or 8th. So tough break for the 40 truck. But Kevin Winker liking that fresh air so far. Gets about 2 or 3 car lengths between him and Dave Hughes Jr.
And that fresh air.
Sean
Jensic got turned. Not sure who he collected. That's the 14 of AJ Pritchett. They both took some heavy shots coming out of turn number 2. We're going to stay green, though, as they went to the inside.
Wow, really tough break for both of these drivers. Big damage for the 29. I'm not sure he's going to be able to race that truck without it. Blown up there is the yellow. Walt Lipicki, I'm hearing, in the wall now on pit road.
And that actually is going to be the best friend moment to Sean Jensic, who was way off power and was going to have a hard time. I was going to imagine that he would have to tow to get back to pit road. And that caution coming out when it did is going to save him from going a lap down for sure. It's still possible, but that's going to give him some hope there to stay on the lead lap.
Yeah, we got a lot to cover here on this Beer Street Journal Rec Replay. As always, please drink responsibly. Let's see. Check out this Sean Jensic, AJ Pritchett incident first. AJ comes up. Oh, that's Burgesson. That was a little bit slow on the outside there, really putting the 29 in a bad spot. And AJ Pritchett, I'm guessing, just didn't know that the 40 was out there.
I mean, that's a tough one. 3 wide at Indy is virtually impossible in these trucks and any stock car. The 40 was a little bit farther away from the wall than I think. I don't know if he knew that he could be a little bit closer there. It's a tough spot. Oh, wow. Hard hit to Walt Lipicki and Sean Jensic there. That explains that damage. But, oh, wow. Was that
Cody
Riggs? Yeah, that got collected in that one as well. A lot of damage to some guys here in this wreck at a high-speed portion of the track. But, yeah, 3 wide, not going to work there. I know they got to avoid that 40 truck that was off pace. But that's a tough moment there, trying to squeeze in coming out of a turn.
Yeah, and it's just one of those instances. Before we go and actually interview Jacob Zala, can we go and possibly take a look at his onboard cam? Because that had to be a stressful moment for him. He was well behind that as he was just involved in that last incident and given an EOL, and he had to drive right through the incident between Sean Jensic and Walt Lipicki. We're going to watch the whole thing unfold from his perspective here. He's got Cody Riggs just in front of him, who was also involved in that. So Jacob Zala already using that first fast repair. His only fast repair had to go through this.
And this is a great angle to show you how narrow the track is. It looks narrow when we're showing it from these the other camera views outside of the trucks. When you're riding on board, it shows you how extremely narrow it is. And when one truck gets sideways, it basically blocks off the entire surface.
Let's see if we can get him up here in the SRN booth here and possibly get his input on what happened. Hey, Jacob Zala, it's Greg Olenek and Brandon Domain in the booth. How's your race going, bud? How's it going?
Well, for the first half of it, my pedals came unplugged. So to anyone who's seen that, I do apologize. My pedals got unplugged. So the first half of my race has been screaming and almost crying.
Well, that's kind of what we were thinking was going on. That was one of the ideas. We weren't sure what happened, so we definitely wanted to ask. But now you're sitting there, you had the OL, had to drop all the way to the back, but now back onto the lead lap, it looks like. So kind of that new lease on life. How do you feel about moving forward these last 35 laps?
We're just going to have to do what we do here at Tank Racing, go back to the front. I got to now that we're back on the lead lap, I have to stay calm and collected here and make sure I can get back to the pack and hopefully get up to the top 10.
A lot of time to get up there, Jacob, but great job on getting through that last wreck. That had to be, a little white-knuckle moment for you, huh?
Yeah, big time. I was scared the whole time because, I'm going down the backstretch. I'm all good. And then you see your teammate in the 64, Walt Lipicki, just flying across the racetrack. So it got scary.
All right, buddy. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Do your best, get back up there safely, and we'll look forward to seeing you possibly move on here in these playoffs.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right. Well, we appreciate Jacob Zala's time as he is in the thick of it here in an elimination race in the Truck Series. And you're right, Brandon. That is kind of what we were kind of suspecting happened to the 25. A little bit of a tech error on his end.
Yeah, that's a tough break there, but in the reverse of it, a good break just happening with how quick that caution came out, not spending a lot of time, trapped a lap down, got the lucky dog back onto the lead lap, sitting in the 30th position. It's real tough to pass at this track, but he does have that new lease on life, a lot of energy, I'm sure, to try to make those moves to get back out in front. Going to take some work, though, to get up there.
Yeah, he got 2 lucky dogs. I'm counting this time by. He got through that wild crash here on the backstretch and also got his lap back. So a good last 5 laps or so for the 25 of Jacob Zala. But it's got to start all the way in the back of the field. A lot of trucks to pass, but we'll see if he's able to get back up here to where Kevin Winker and Matt Johnson are out in front. You know, these are 2 of the drivers that have still yet to pit after 2 cautions here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at, about 5 or 6 green flag laps on those tires, so not a ton of wear, but there is still going to be that little bit of a disadvantage that they'll have when we get later into the run. Those that pitted and took 4 tires, you see Brad Herman sitting in the 4th position, Blair Holloman in 5th, and Kyle Wimble in 6th. Bobby Anderson had the 2-tire pit stop. He's sitting in the 3rd spot, so the pressure is going to be on, a lot less of a buffer behind these 1st and 2nd place drivers this time, as we saw in that last restart.
Yeah, and after that last caution, Sean Jensick sits in 24th now, so really going to have to work to get up into the top 10 and move on in the playoffs. A lot to follow here, but we are back green for the Hoosier 110. Kevin Winker looks to get a big jump on Matt Johnson, but Matt Johnson going to be just to his outside as they enter turn 1.
And they all dive straight into turn 1. Big wash up for the 61. And he's going to go flying towards the back, and that's going to leave Kevin Winker as the last man standing that is still out on the original set of tires. But he's out in front by a good half second or so ahead of Bobby Anderson, who will sit in 2nd, Brad Herman in 3rd.
Yeah, those 2 keep racing side by side like they are. Kevin Winker could pull out to a little bit of lead, maybe break the draft between these drivers, but not sure if he's going to have the grip to do that. But with those 2 driving side by side, you see the delta he's able to put between him and Bobby Anderson up to a half a second now. Now Brad Herman going to have Blair Holloman to his inside. So Brad Herman going from 2nd to 4th just like that. This track can really take no prisoners sometimes and eat your tires up and possibly get out on the outside lane and put yourself in a bad position.
Yeah, it's real easy to wear out those tires quicker than everybody around you, and if you get stuck on the outside, it's almost like you're on ice skates, and the trucks, it's a little bit more easy to navigate than it is going to be in the Xfinity, and even the Cup cars with the power that they have in those, but it's still real dicey being on the outside there, just because it's so much more slick. There's a lot of rubber that builds up on the inside, and speaking of build up, that lead that was built up has gone away quickly, because Bobby Anderson right onto that tailgate of the 42.
Yeah, he is letting them know he's there. He's ready to take the lead here at Indianapolis, but going to have to get a good run off the exit of 4 here and possibly make a good move down into turn 1. He's going to have to make it clear to the 42 where he's going if he's going to try and make a push to the inside lane. But right now, I don't think he's going to get there as he's trying to draft the 42 all the way down this front stretch.
And this is a tough place to really pick where you want to make this pass, especially when it's one-on-one. You don't really have a whole lot of drafting help in front or behind at this point. If you're Bobby Anderson, you're just kind of trying to pick the right spot. You got to get a great run down a straightaway to really try to dive in. You don't want to try to do it on the outside when you got a truck right behind you, just because the odds are it's not really going to work out for you. So this is kind of a tough spot to be in. You really want to get to the inside, but Winker's doing a great job of protecting that inside line.
Yeah, these 3 trucks kind of evenly spaced out and a little bit of gap between them and Kyle Wimble there in 4th. Whoa, here we go. Bobby Anderson taking a look to the inside. Not going to be there, though, as the 42 is able to clear him. But now he's going to have to worry about Blair Holloman because he's got a big run down the front stretch.
And I think at that point, Blair just realized, you know what, I want to stay behind him in the draft and try to pull back up, knowing that if he goes side by side, that's going to invite Kyle Wimble, Landon Cardulo, everybody behind them into this mix as well. They stay single file. They might continue to open up that gap a little bit back to 4th place.
Taking a little bit of a look back through the field, Jonathan Byer up to 9th now after starting 12th. So big moves so far by him, able to move in the right direction as he is the one on the cut line, looking to make some gap between him and Josh Mueller, who's sitting in 14th now, up from 17th. So just keeping an eye on those two drivers. And I'm trying to see Sean Jensick up to 23rd, so still moving forward, but slowly in that 29 machine.
Yeah, he's up to the 23rd spot. You see Jacob Zala in the 25 in 25th, so they're both moving up slowly. Oh,
he gets contact.
The wall. And that was Jacob Zala, it looks like, yeah. And that was a heavy hit. Actually, that might not have been him.
That was him.
Oh, yeah. So, sorry, those trucks kind of looked similar a little bit there.
He's got some right side damage, yeah.
Yeah, so that is going to be a little bit of pressure, and that might be that pressure of trying to pick up as many spots as you can in such a quick hurry. 45 laps is a lengthy lap around this track, about 53 seconds, but that's still, you're looking at those laps tick down and have a lead change, pass on the track. It's Bobby Anderson to the point. He's going to be stuck on the outside, though. Kevin Winker taking a look to the inside.
Yeah, going to have to be really careful here as he's racing a driver that is not inside the playoffs. So Bobby Anderson going to have to take it easy. Kevin Winker, one of the more clean drivers in the league, but what's to say something doesn't happen in the 42 and 18, make contact with some tight racing. But now Blair Holloman going to be right on the bumper of the 42, opting to push him down the front stretch. They get really tight as Bobby Anderson tries to side draft him.
Yeah, that was a huge shove with the draft from Blair Holloman to Kevin Winker. Winker going to move back out in front. Anderson going to slam the door going into turn 2 and not let Holloman follow that opening there to get to the inside. But what that side-by-side racing did for the lead, look at how the entire pack behind them has reeled them in, and now we got everybody all within a couple seconds going in through the entire top 10.
Yeah, Lucas Lyons back there under attack for Brad Herman as he got into the wall on the exit of turn 1. Not as bad as Jacob Zala did, but still scraped the wall on that 7 machine. So he's under attack back there, getting passed left and right. He's going to fall back to 10th, I believe. But this is the battle for the lead right now. Kevin Winker is still able to hold on to it with those older tires as he blinks out right there, comes back. But, yeah, he is able to maintain it surprisingly with about 6 or 7 lap older tires.
For a second, thought we were about to see 3 wide going into 1, about 10th place or so. But, yeah, this is really impressive that Kevin Winker's still holding on to that lead on the older tires. They weren't significantly worn. We're looking at a handful of green flag lap difference, but still doing a fantastic job keeping everybody behind him. And it just all comes down to protect that inside line. It is so hard to make a pass on the outside here. He knows that every single bit, and he is doing a great job of just hugging that white line every single turn.
Yeah, we're going to see how his fuel saving came in under those cautions. He's going to have to go to, like you said, lap 24, and he's coming down pit road this time. So not going to be enough to get him to the end with just this stop. So the strategy not really working out for the 42 at the moment. But who's to say a caution doesn't come out when he pits or the rest of the field pits and he gets back out in front. So we'll follow that 42, see how he fares through this race. But that's going to give the lead to Bobby Anderson. Blair Holloman in second, Kyle Wimble in third. Kyle Wimble trying to make that push up to second as he is making a look, was making a look to the inside of that 06.
Yeah, he's making a good charge here, trying to catch up to Holloman. And everybody kind of separated by about 2/10 or so, working their way all the way through. So everybody realizing that there's still another pit stop that's needed for everybody, just kind of settling in here in the middle of the race. And this is kind of what we've seen from the truck guys in really all 3 series here in SRN for the most part the past few weeks. We get a couple of chaos moments there early, and then everybody settles down. And we're seeing that once again. I'm still a little surprised that we saw Kevin Winker come in. I think there was a little bit more life there, especially with the cautions that we saw. He should have been able to conserve some more fuel. So I'm surprised that he came in as early as he did, not just for the run that he would have this time, but that's going to set him up to where he has to make another pit stop the rest of the way.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he's able to figure it out and get to the end and possibly steal this thing from the rest of the field. But so far, he is well behind the rest of the pack after he pits on green flag. But right now, Bobby Anderson maintaining that gap between him and Blair Hallman. Landon Cardulo sitting there just behind his teammate in third. So Landon having a really good race after the playoffs were kind of a shaky start for that 13. Has really gotten it together after winning last week at Auto Club and running fourth tonight in Indy.
Oh, wow. Real close moment there towards that outside wall for the 3 of Kyle Wimble. But, yeah, that was a huge moment there for last week for Landon Cardulo, who had that big momentum save. Really had that hurting after Kentucky in the opening race of this round, but then going out there and really putting together a lights-out performance last week at Auto Club, putting himself right back into a great position. And we're seeing these trucks really start sliding around a lot coming out of exit on these turns, and that's going to be a factor of two things. The tires are wearing out, but also they're running lower and lower on fuel, and that's going to make that back end of the truck lighter and lighter, and iRacing does a good job of simulating that to real life, and that back end of the trucks are going to start getting real squirrely when they get out an exit on these really sharp corners.
Looked like the 18 got really tight or something there on the exit of that one turn, and the 06 kind of caught up to him for a second. So not sure if he's losing the handling on that 18, but so far able to maintain that lead. But these trucks getting ever so much closer to one another as this lead tightens up. But I just want to go ahead and point attention to the pylon on the left. Look how much green that we're seeing in the top 10, 8 out of the top 10. Sitting in the top 10 in this Indiana or Hoosier 110. So a good day for these drivers sitting above the cut line, not what these guys in yellow want to see.
Yeah, that's a great sight for everybody that's currently in the top 10. You only have Michael York, the only other threat to them, that's making that charge up the field. He's sitting in the 6th spot, but remember, he was 14th in the playoff standings, 15 points out, so he's going to need even more of a push to make his way through, and now he's fallen back to the 8th position, so it's a lot of green. The top 7 drivers all inside the top 10 in the point standings. This is an absolutely huge moment for them if that stays that way for the second half of this race.
Yeah, but as we've seen, anything can happen. At Indianapolis, we saw a big wreck already between Sean Jensick and Walt Lepicki, which really shook a lot of things up in our playoff field. So we'll see how these drivers fare as Kyle Wimble gets really tight racing with Blair Hallman. So Kyle Wimble going to move up to second here and clears the 06 relatively easy on the exit of 2. Now Brad Herman looking to make a move on Blair.
Think that was a moment of Blair knowing where he is points-wise. He's in a decent spot. He didn't want to risk that. You could see him kind of just sliding up the track a little bit there in turn 1, and I think he backed out of it a little bit more than he might have even needed to, just to make sure that he gave that space and didn't bring contact to the 3 of Kyle Wimble. But Brad Herman going to take advantage of that little bit of loss of momentum, and he's going to move into the 3rd spot. So the points leader entering today's race sitting in a top 3 position yet again.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot with a lot of these drivers running up towards the top of the standings. You know, if a driver gets in there and starts passing them, they're not going to race them too hard as to put themselves in a position of possible risk and maybe lose their whole season. As Blair Hallman gets real close to the wall right there, and that's going to give Landon Cardulo the inside and 4th place for the 13.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a Code Brown moment there for the 06 and the 13 with how close they were together. And, wow, another close really moment close, there.
Yeah.
That was a very close to not being clear moment for Landon Cardulo. Oh, Kyle Wimble.
Kyle Wimble with Brad Herman.
Hard into the outside wall.
Wow, our 2nd and 3rd place drivers get into each other entering turn 3. And that is just going to shake this race up even more as the 3 suffering big-time damage. The 85 probably going to have some significant left-side damages. That was a big hit.
That was a real big hit, and you can see it on the left side of that 3 truck. That is like the classic Indianapolis wreck that you'll see where somebody just gets turned going into the corner and just the left side slapping the wall hard as we take a look at our 3rd Beer Street Journal wreck replay of the night. And it's a big run from the 85 of Brad Herman to the inside. He was kind of pinning Kyle Wimble, and Wimble started to make that move towards the inside. Herman just was not making that dive inside to get that corner, that apex just yet, and it was just a misjudging of the turn from both of them, really, going for that same piece of track at the same time. Just a tough moment there for Kyle Wimble, who's going to get the worst of it.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here is I think he's going to be following Bobby Anderson into the turn, which leads him right into the 85. Nowhere for Brad Herman to go, and just, you know, it's a it's a mistake that happens from time to time with many drivers out here in iRacing. So that is what I'm guessing happens, is you see him just follow the 18's tracks right into turn 3.
And we'll talk about that sometimes when it's when somebody hits the wall on their own, and then the driver behind them happens to hit the wall on the exit of a turn, something like that. Or it's kind of the follow the leader kind of thing. You get back into the gas, or you get off the brake the same time the truck in front of you does, and you kind of make the same mistake they make. This wasn't. I don't think it was a mistake on anybody's part in this one. It's just the angle that happened. Wimble came down a little bit early, and Herman was going to come down a little bit later. They just didn't quite mesh the way that they thought they were going to, and just led to that contact.
Yeah, chalk it up to just battling for the lead, very tight racing, and that's going to happen. This is racing, and that's exactly what we saw. So these drivers are going to have to do their best to, get their mind right after all that. And Kyle Wimble is in a tough position now, as he was sitting 3 points above the cut line. Is probably going to lose a lot of positions here and just kind of miss his box right there. So both drivers, you saw them slide through their stall. That's going to cost them a little more time.
And the race off pit road is going to be for the 85 of Brad Herman. Michael Madden will be second off pit road. Landon Cardulo third. And Blair Holloman going to be in the 9th position. Lucas Lyons in the 10th. So we're kind of seeing that those drivers that were sitting in the top 10 just trying to keep it conservative, but they're starting to fall victim to some of these things that are going on track and some pit road mistakes. But speaking of pit road, completely skipping pit road is Jason Kratke, Kevin Winker, and Matt Johnson. They're all going to be sitting in the top 3 after this one by not taking that pit stall.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this works out for that 42. We saw him pit under green and kind of got himself off cycle with the field. I'm wondering if this will get him possibly to the end if he saves enough fuel in that 42 truck. Could play spoiler here with these guys racing in this elimination race.
Both Winker and Johnson came in on lap 24. I have no, so that's off. That's off on mine. So 19 for Kevin Winker. And 23 for Matt Johnson. Thank you, Sean, for saying that in my ear there. So I think Matt Johnson has a shot if he conserves a little bit here under caution. Kevin Winker, I thought he had more left in it than he did, but he came in on lap 19. That's with a couple cautions. That tells me he won't have enough to make it the rest of the way unless he figured something out and maybe there's some more life in it than he had the first run.
We're going to find out if this thing stays green exactly how much he has left in the tank, but the pace car lights are off. Field has been shaken up. Some playoff drivers have had a tough day, and we're going to find ourselves a winner and a new top 10 moving on in the next round of the playoffs. Brandon, are you looking forward to these last 18 laps?
Oh, this is going to get real interesting because now the pressure is going to go up. A lot of these guys know that they don't have another pit stop left in this race if it stays green. That's normally the time where we start seeing more and more aggression on these passes. We've seen it be pretty gentle for the most part. I think that starts to change here because it's tough to find positions and find passing zones, and I think we're going to start seeing some more being forced on the track the rest of the way.
Yeah, and seeing less green inside that top 10, that's probably going to get some drivers uneasy getting close to the cutoff line. And like we mentioned, 3rd through 10th is only 9 points ahead of the cut line. So anything can happen, and we've seen a lot happen tonight. We're going to have to follow Kyle Wimble and see if he's able to climb his way back up through the field. Along with Sean Jensick, he's up to 17th now. Probably going to want to pick up a few more spots to really solidify his position into the next round. But a lot of other drivers also wondering the same thing. Are we going to move on?
Yeah, and those playoff drivers that had issues, Kyle Wimble going to be sitting in the 30th on this restart, 31st for Jacob Zala on this restart. So 3 of our playoff top 10 drivers all affected in incidents tonight, and Sean Jensick made up for it. Now we can see if Kyle Wimble and Jacob Zala can do the same.
Well, pace car is off the track. Jason Kratke going to have the field in his hands for his first restart on the point tonight. Gets a good jump over Kevin Winker. That's going to put Matt Johnson to the inside of the 42. So 42 not getting the jump that he wanted. It's going to have to really fight hard on the outside.
That's tough to do on a little bit worn tires, being held to the outside, almost at 3 wide there. And Matt Johnson thinking better of it. I'm still thrown off. He's got the 61 truck on the screen, but it's the 1 truck on the pylon, and we know Matt Johnson in the 1. But he's going to start fading back here pretty quick as he lost a lot of momentum coming out of turn 2. He might have a problem, actually, because he's really fading to the back.
Yeah, he is losing a lot of positions, running slow on the inside. But we're going to have a battle here between Michael Madden and Kevin Winker before long. They get real tight back here, 3 wide, exiting 4 between Herman, Cracky, and I believe that was Lucas Lyons. They get through it, and it is all over the place on the front stretch.
Ooh, and now we're seeing the effect of really worn tires because Jason Kratke was in, I believe it was on lap 10 is what we were being told, and look at the difference in tires, and that's putting everybody around him in a really tough spot. 3 wide through the turn as he's got James Kerr on the inside. Now it's going to be Jack Johnson on the outside in the 35. That's one of our playoff contenders. Sean Jensick was near it. Whole lot of playoff guys trying to make their move back up through the field, having to navigate around the 54 on real worn tires.
Yeah, we're also seeing the effect of drivers running out of time to make it into the next round. So a lot of these guys getting real aggressive out there on the track. And one of these guys making a move here for the lead is going to be Michael Madden onto the inside of the 42. Gets by him real easily on the exit of 4. Going to have clean track ahead of him heading down the front stretch.
Man, that's a sight we have not seen a whole lot this season compared to last season, but Michael Madden to the point for the first time today. Really one of the dominant drivers last year, if not the most dominant for a lot of that time last season. We, like I was saying earlier, we haven't seen that Michael Madden from last season here again this season just yet, but he's kind of felt like that ticking time bomb, and he might be building up that momentum at the perfect time here this season as we get through this first round of the playoff.
Yeah, Michael's a good buddy of mine as he's one of my Rev Racing teammates, and he had a great season to start last year in the trucks. Kind of faded out towards the end, even though he made it into that final 6 in the truck series. But a little bit of a different approach this season as he started slow and is really picking up here in the postseason, running really strong in this 15.
So he's opened up quickly a pretty decent lead there, over a third of a second on Kevin Winker, who's now under attack from Landon Cardulo on the outside. Cardulo with the fresh tires. That's going to be not too bad of a position. Normally I would say you don't want to be outside, but with fresher tires by a decent bit, it usually could work, but it's not this time, and Blair Holloman going to take advantage as he's going to follow Kevin Winker through the inside window, and he'll move into the 3rd position around Cardulo.
Yeah, and I'm seeing more and more yellow creep into that left pylon in the top 10. We got Michael York in 7th, DuPont in 9th, and Josh Mueller in 10th. So Mueller doing what he needs to do to possibly get into the top 10, continue his playoff run. DuPont going to need a little more help as he's sitting 17 points outside the cut. But, hey, we've seen a lot of these guys in the top 10 get into trouble tonight, so a great effort by the 88 to possibly make a big push and get into the next round.
But the big one of the names that you just said is Josh Mueller. He's sitting 1 point out entering this race. 4 top 10 drivers entering tonight, all behind him, and that's going to be huge. And looks like Josh Mueller, if it ended right now, would be the guy that would be moving up for sure based on his running right now. But Kevin Winker, those older tires starting to give out on him just a little bit compared to those fresh ones as he's fallen from 2nd to 4th. Holloman to 2nd, Cardulo to 3rd, Lucas Lyons looking to make that pass as well.
Yeah, so that's your top 5 as they run here in the Hoosier 110. With 13 to go, going to take the stripe this time for 12 to go. So time is running out, but with as long as laps as there are here at Indianapolis, still plenty of time to pick up positions if you are one of those drivers that's potentially on the outside looking in now. It's go time. You don't really know how your situation looks as a driver, so all you really know to do is get as far up as you can. So I really think we're going to see a lot of these guys get aggressive here towards the end.
Oh, for sure. And Lucas Lyons making that pass on Kevin Winker to move into the 4th spot. Brad Herman now on the tailgate of that 42. That's on about 6-7 lap older tires than everybody else around him. And we're starting to see how that plays out. So it was a big shot there from the 42, just trying to go a little off kilter from everybody else. And it's worked pretty well as he's still been holding on to a solid spot. And there's Jason Kratke on the inside. He's a lap down after making a pit stop. And I think he was just trying to get out of the way there on that one. But a big lead opened up for Michael Madden in that 15, about 2/3 of a second ahead of Blair Holloman in the 06.
Yeah, Blair Holloman kind of maintaining that gap between him and the 15, so we'll see if he's able to run him down. Michael Madden looking like he's not one of those guys that goes all the way to the bottom of the track, just holding his lane all the way down the straightaway, setting himself up for his entry into turn 1. And here we go, a little bit of action back here for 23rd and 22nd. Bruce Amston was racing there with Sean Kozier, and Matt Johnson's just behind him, so some tight action back here in the middle of the pack.
And actually a few spots up from them, I kind of want to give a shout out to Kyle Wimble, actually. He's moved himself all the way up from 30th to the 19th position on track that last time by. So a huge charge for that 3 truck after getting into that trouble on that last caution. Got the damage fixed with the fast repair, and he's trying to minimize as much damage as possible. He wasn't far ahead of that cut line, but doing exactly what he needs to do to make up as much ground as possible.
Yeah, he's got to do everything he can to pick up every position on the track possible, because he is looking down the barrel of possibility of, not moving on in these playoffs if it holds up where he's at. So definitely going to try and make his way up into the top 10, maybe be a little bit safer there in that 3 Toyota Tundra. But right now, Landon Cardullo, his teammate, up to second, gets by Blair Holloman. He's going to set his sights on Michael Madden, but now 9/10 separates first and second.
And it's something that can be made up, but there's just not a whole lot of pressure that Michael Madden's been feeling since he took the lead. And I'm thinking he's probably done a pretty good job of conserving tires, knowing how he races. That's something he's incredibly good at, and I think most of you revved guys are really good at conserving tires in general. So he might be in a pretty solid spot here if this thing stays green for these last 9 laps. 0.8 of a second. We haven't seen that kind of dissipate too much. This is a good run from Cardullo out of 4 this time, but still only picking up a couple hundredths and then giving it right back in turn 1.
Yeah, taking a ride on board the 15 out in front. You just see how flat this track really is. Kind of crazy, really, how flat these corners are with how much speed you carry down the front stretch. It all works, and it makes it a great time out there. You ran these in practice earlier and said it's really fun, and you're kind of jealous you weren't out there with them tonight.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun for sure. Like the Xfinity cars, it's a lot more of a handling thing, getting around the turns. They just want to kind of snap loose on you so quickly. These trucks, they have so much bite in these turns, and you can run the turns about 10, 12, 15 miles an hour faster on fresh tires than we'll be able to tomorrow. It just really kind of lets you feel like you're whipping these trucks around this really tight track. It's just a whole lot of fun running them. I told the guys in the Discord server earlier, I'm jealous I'm not out there with them tonight just because of how fun this track is with these trucks. The trucks are just a lot of fun in general, but tracks like this kind of extenuate that, where it just really tells you how much fun you can have on them with those momentum-based trucks with a lot of downforce.
Someone having fun right now is that 13, Landon Cardullo, as he's picking up a lot of time on our leader, Michael Madden. So Cardullo's running him down, getting in that draft, and he is carrying a huge momentum down these straightaways, which is closing about a 1/10 of a lap each time they go down these straightaways.
Yeah, and he's now close enough that draft is going to be a huge factor for him, and he's actually pulled far enough away from Blair Holloman, who's now over a second back, that the draft isn't going to help him as much that he's going to be feeling from the 13. So this is a great position for Landon Cardullo. If he can just keep behind that 15, he can continue to kind of chip that away. That draft is going to be huge now.
Yeah, I guess I said Michael Madden was a non-believer in breaking the draft a little too soon, as you saw him do it right there, because he has taken note that Landon Cardullo is just behind him. He can sense the Ghirardelli chocolate getting ever so much closer to that 15 machine. But Landon, coming off the momentum of last week's win at Auto Club, another 2-mile racetrack here in Indianapolis, could he be our ringer for our 2-mile ovals?
It's very possible, but one thing I'm noticing here is it's a big difference on straightaways and turns. In the turns, Michael Madden is actually picking up on that gap a pretty significant amount compared to what's being made up on the straightaways. The straightaways is a great place for Landon Cardula right now because he can follow in that wake and in that draft that's being thrown out there from the 15. But look at how much faster Michael Madden is leading this one, going through the turns. He doesn't have to worry about the air as much. You can kind of get a little bit more grip through the turns. He's just really pulling away in turns 1 and 2 this time. Got a little tight actually that time in 2. He might have overdrove it a bit, kind of killing my point I was just making. But the turns before it, he was about a tenth faster each side.
Yeah, that absolutely killed his momentum. On the exit of that turn, it was 6'10", separating them down to 3.5 as Landon is just about 2 truck lengths behind that 15 machine. Coming to the stripe this time to take 5 laps to go. Landon is going to do everything he can to pick up any amount of time on Michael Madden, but going to be tough to do as Madden is one of the best out in front.
Really good out in front. He got that rhythm right back through 3 and 4. Didn't let turn 2 bother him a whole lot. Really nailed those turns that time by. And this is a track that's so easy to do that. If you're a couple inches off of the line that you want to run, you're just going to kind of slide up that racetrack real easy. It's hard to kind of pin it down unless you nail that line on entry. We saw a good side-by-side battle as well behind them with Brad Herman and Blair Holloman still giving each other some pretty decent space, but Herman going to jump up to the 3rd spot ahead of Holloman and now in 4th.
Yeah, we saw Brad Herman involved with that incident in Kyle Wimble a few laps ago, so works his way back up to 3rd after running out in front earlier on. But right now, the battle is for Michael Madden and Landon Cardullo to take the win here tonight. Coming to the stripe, 4 laps to go this time by. We'll see just how much quicker Landon Cardullo was this time. I'm going to believe it was about 600ths or so of a second as he picks up a little more here on the 15. Actually picks up 2.5 tenths on that lap.
Yeah, he's just getting closer and closer to that tailgate of the 15, and that's going to make the draft even more stronger. So in the turn, it's going to continue to be Madden with that advantage, but it's going to be less of an advantage now than it was over the straightaways, because the straightaways now, as close as they are, that draft is going to be pulling Cardullo even stronger than it was a couple of laps ago. This might be set up perfectly for the 13 to go back-to-back.
Well, he's going to have his work cut out to get by this 15. Going to have to do it at the right spot, as he's going to need a big swing of momentum going down this front straightaway if he's going to want to take a look into turn 1. Otherwise, he's going to have to tuck into the 15's rear end here and maybe get some good draft into turn 1.
And this just feels like so many of the old Indy 500s and really the current ones where it's so built on the draft of those cars and just how they navigate around here. The turns is just keeping it straight, not losing time. The straightaways are really that attack zone because you can get such a big run. Look how close the 13 has now gotten to Michael Madden in the 15. And this is going to be real tight as they go down that back straightaway. It's all about, does Landon Cardullo want to get the big run now, or is he going to try to hold off till that last lap? Because you almost don't want to be the leader getting to the last lap with somebody this close behind you at Indianapolis.
Yeah, and both of these guys racing for the win are going to have to keep their eye on that big picture. These guys are not by any means safe to move on to the next round in the playoffs. And if they get racing too hard with one another, they could put themselves in a position where they lose this race and their shot at a playoff championship.
Yeah, and with the big picture side of that, too, there's, hard contact into the wall out of 4. They're wrecking on the entry of pit road. It's Joseph DuPont, caution out.
Wow. That is going to change everything. The good run for DuPont squashed as he has big damage and finds himself towed to pit road. That's going to shake things even more up in the standings. Josh Mueller, up to 7th. He's going to be looking to push someone out of the playoffs. But before we get to the end of this race, we got to check out another Beer Street Journal rec replay to find out exactly what happened to Joseph DuPont back here racing with Michael Amenti.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Amenti just washed up or if he got a little too low and it just shot him up when he hit that little bit of curbing or the grass possibly. We kind of see a better shot of it. Hit the curb, but he did just wash up a little bit. You can normally survive the curb here unless it gets you loose. And then maybe he was trying to collect it, but either way, the 88 was there just kind of as an airbag, unfortunately for him, for the 55 when he slid up the track. And that's going to end, it looks like, the chances for advancing through the playoffs for Joseph DuPont, who was already outside of the top 10, and that damage coming at the worst possible time for him.
Yeah, terrible time. for his last race in the playoffs. Joseph DuPont, unfortunately, going to fall outside of the cut, but that's going to leave possibly the chance for someone else to move on here tonight, and we're going to see exactly who that is when we go into overtime here at Indianapolis for the Hoosier 110. And there is a lot of shakeup, as always, when we see these things come out. Kyle Wimble all the way up to third now, or excuse me, sorry, saw his number, up to 11th, running in that 3-car or truck. So he has definitely made up some spots to get his way back up there and potentially move on, as he was only a few points ahead of his teammate Jonathan Byer sitting there on the cut line. Byer running 5th. He is in a pretty safe position if it holds up like this. But we're going to be following Josh Mueller to see if he's able to possibly sneak his way in. Sean Jensick just 2 positions behind Mueller. So this could be the guys that we're watching here.
And this is going to be real interesting, too, because you're looking at the top 6. They're all green, and they're all running with each other. And I was just about to ask if anybody was going to make a pit stop, because we're pretty close, and they all are going to come down pit road. And that's they were going to be cutting it close on fuel if they did, and so this is not too much of a shock. So hopefully if they stay out in this type of order, you're looking at the top 6 all in green. Josh Mueller in 7th was 1 point out. He would be essentially in. So I'm curious on how much that group is going to really push each other. The ones that are going to be trying to go crazy in this one would be somebody like a Kyle Wimble, who's not necessarily safe at this point. There's a couple of guys that are just in that danger spot. They would be the ones that would have to be real aggressive.
I'm really curious to see how this set of pit stops shakes up our field, because I was just doing the math in my head, and Jacob Zala only found himself 17 points above Josh Mueller on the cut line. Now, before they came down pit road, Zala was running 24th, and Josh Mueller was running 7th. That's putting 17 points between them. So we could be seeing Jacob Zala possibly racing for his playoff life here in this overtime.
And meanwhile, we had a big shakeup now because, oh, by the way, off strategy the entire race, Kevin Winker finds himself back up front on older tires again. This time a little bit more than the 6 laps that we've seen before. So hopefully he has a little bit better success than we saw from Jason Kratke earlier, and how that tire differential went. And that's going to put some nerves into the guys that are going to be around him, as it's going to be Blair Holloman sitting in 2nd, Brad Herman in 3rd, Michael Madden is going to fall back to the 4th position, and then Byer and Cardullo rounding out the top 6. That's going to be a shaky moment with the leader taking a restart on worn tires at this point in the race.
Oh man, this has been a dramatic race. It's only been 45 laps, believe it or not, but it seems like it's been 100 or so, as it's just been so many different things unfolding here as we see Jason Kratke come down pit road. He was a lap down, so not going to shake the field up too much, but Kevin Winker is going to have his hands full with these guys on fresher tires behind him. But we've seen him do it before, hold on to that lead for 2 or 3 laps, so he could potentially steal this one tonight.
He could, but when we saw him do it, it wasn't on as old tires as we're seeing this time by. Now, that does ask the question, though, how many of these guys behind him took 2? How many didn't take tires? How many took 4? There's a whole lot of ways they can go about it. We saw a shake-up there in the standings with how that went, so I'm assuming that not everybody took 4 tires and were on the same strategy. So if there's a lot of people behind him that took 2 or no tires, this could work out pretty well for Winker.
Yeah, and our leader before that caution came out, Michael Madden, sits back in 4th now. So going to have some trucks to pass in just 2 laps time, and really fast trucks nonetheless. So we'll see if Michael Madden's able to reclaim that lead and get another win on the season. But a lot to watch here in just 2 laps time. It's going to be absolutely crazy, as we got all sorts of stories unfolding here, with Kevin Winker's pit strategy being the top one, getting him out in front with just 2 to go.
So as I've been alerted by our producer / pit reporter / sometimes play-by-play, Sean Griffith, Blair Holloman took right side tires only. So you're looking at 2 fresh tires on the outside, 4 worn tires on the inside. Either way, that's going to make this real interesting for row 2 of Brad Herman and Michael Madden on how they're going to pressure these guys on those more worn tires in front of them.
Yeah, seeing Jacob Zala took 2 tires as well, picked up a few spots, moved up from 24th to 20th. and Josh Mueller running 10th, putting 10 positions just between them. So going to need a little bit more separation there. But I believe Josh Mueller might be in. We're going to get you the final numbers before our broadcast ends tonight. Let's trying to follow it live, but we're going to have a restart before we get to that. Maybe the final one of the night. We're in overtime here at Indianapolis. Kevin Winker leads them down into turn 1.
And he got an early jump there as early as he could, just making sure that he wasn't going to get that wheel spin and could take advantage of it as he kind of eased his way through the gears. Did a good job of it, opened up a pretty good gap side by side, Herman and Holloman for second.
Yeah, this is exactly what he wants to see, them racing really tight with one another, having to let out to give each other space or room. And that's Jonathan Byer, I believe, making a move, or it could have been Landon Cardulo to the inside of Brad Herman. Cardulo making a push to the front. Now Michael Madden going to be to the outside of Blair Holloman, going to try and make a race for the second. That's exactly what Kevin Winker wants to see these guys get real tight. Got to be careful. They are racing for playoff or contention as well as a win here tonight. Got to keep these trucks clean to the end.
If we don't have a caution coming out of 4 before we take the white flag, we're only going to get this one overtime, and we do stay green to the white. Kevin Winker leads him to the white flag. I am shocked that we're seeing these guys as aggressive as they are, though, because they're in positions where they know they're pretty much locked in if they just keep it straight. Hard into the wall, Michael Madden.
Yeah, big contact there for the 15. Going to have to get himself in check here as they're spinning just in front of him, I believe. Saw some smoke. But as we see this, we're going to have a race down the backstretch for the lead. Blair Holloman to the outside of the 42. Not sure if that's what the 42 would want here, as Blair Holloman's going to have a big run exiting 3.
3 wide behind him. Holloman to the outside, trying to make the pass on Kevin Winker. These are a battle of older tires. It's 2 fresh ones for Holloman, 4 worn ones for Winker. Who's got it coming out of 4?
Oh, wow. It's going to be a drag race down the front stretch. Kevin Winker trying to get his first win in SRM, but Blair Holloman trying to play spoiler. Going to get a side draft off the truck. It's a drag race. Kevin Winker, I think, wins it.
8/1000ths of a second for Kevin Winker. Unbelievable finish.
Oh, man, that is awesome. I love seeing first-time winners here in Speed Racing Network. Kevin Winker been with us for a long time and getting it done here tonight at Indianapolis in very dramatic fashion. I have never been on the call side of a race that close before.
Oh, by the way, looking at the pylon, where did Kyle Wimble and Sean Jensick come from in the top 10 all of a sudden? Great charges from them through the field, recovering from those wrecks early on. Jacob Zala doing a good job as well, up to the 18th position. One of the guys we were keeping our eye on, Josh Mueller, going to be in the 11th spot. But we see a whole lot of green. 8 of the top 10 here in this race were in the top 10 in points entering tonight's race. So this could be a lot of chalk on who's advancing after some great recoveries from a few guys that had trouble early.
Well, this is going to be a sweet one for the 42 of Kevin Winker. Dings the truck into the outside wall. He doesn't care. He's doing a burnout on the bricks here at Indianapolis. And this is a sweet one as it's our first trip here in SRN in the Truck Series. He is going to be the inaugural winner. Gets his first win ever in the league, and that is just a huge feat within itself.
That's absolutely huge, and he was the points leader in the Tier 2 playoff, or the Tier 2 standings coming into tonight. Obviously, that's going to increase, but what a job he did tonight. He went on that off-kilter strategy the entire race, put himself in a real possible tough position on that final restart, and he did exactly what he had to do to hold on to that lead and even hold off that great charge that we saw from Holloman.
All right, well, let's go ahead and give you the rundown of tonight's results. Kevin Winker bringing it home in first by 0.08 of a second. Blair Holloman coming home in second. A valiant effort to try and snag that win. It was an awesome side draft down the front stretch. Third place going to be Brad Herman. Fourth place, Lucas Lyons. And fifth place going to Landon Cardulo.
Well, we were worried about if Jonathan Byer would go from points lead to out in the span of 2 races. Doesn't look like that's going to happen as he had a 6th-place finish tonight. Great recovery from Kyle Wimble, who will be in 7th. Second Stryker Truck, second non-playoff driver, Don Milkowitz, going to be in 8th. Sean Jensick, another one of those guys with a great recovery tonight, finishing in 9th. And Michael Madden, we saw that hard contact he had there in overtime to the wall. He'll hang on to 10th.
In 11th is going to be Josh Mueller. Going to be curious to see if he had enough to make it in the top 10. We'll get you those numbers here shortly. Michael York coming home in 12th place. Bobby Anderson in 13th. Brad Rivers coming home in 14th. And James Kerr going to be in 15th.
16th place will be A.J. Pritchett. Jack Johnson likely will see his playoff run end tonight with a 17th place finish. Jacob Zala going to be nervy here for a few minutes as he's going to be in the 18th spot. 19th will be Mike Mosby, another one of our drivers that was out entering the race. And 20th place is going to be Troy Techmeyer.
All right, well, let's go ahead and bring up Brad Herman, our 3rd place finisher tonight at the Hoosier 110. Brad, it's Greg and Brandon in the booth. Congrats on another podium here in the Truck Series. Tell us about the race tonight, and are you looking forward to the next round of the playoffs?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I sure am. Could have had a better race, but happy with just keeping it up front. Keeping these playoffs hopefuls in sight. Had a couple incidents with a driver there, but is what it is going to happen, so I'm happy with a 3rd.
Well, it was a great show and getting yet another podium here to close out this first round. Entered with the points lead. Obviously, you'll be moving on. But going from one unique track with Indianapolis to another pretty unique track coming up next week at Phoenix. Know we got the new version of Phoenix that got released on iRacing here in the past week or so in correlation with the championship this week in real life. So how do you feel about that? And have you even had any time to get used to that new layout on Phoenix?
Yeah, I ran some laps there in the next gen car. Definitely gonna have to hit it hard with some practice to make sure I'm good. But I was on the old configuration, so I think I'll be able to get it figured out. Definitely 1 and 2 or 3 and 4 are way different, so it's gonna be difficult for some people.
Well, we look forward to seeing you make that push towards the Final 5. Been super strong all through the playoffs so far, but you're moving on to the next round. But before we let you go, you got any friends, any family, any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
You guys in the booth, Next Level Racing, TJ's team, Michael Kinsley for the designs. Go check him out on Facebook. He's got great stuff.
All right, man. Well, definitely do that and have fun celebrating with the team, man. And we'll look forward to seeing you out there next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, well, that was our 3rd place finisher tonight, Brad Herman, taking the bronze at Indy. But let's go ahead and bring up Blair Holloman, who made an ever so epic push to get the win here tonight at Indianapolis, just coming up 8 thousandths of a second short. Blair, tell us about that finish and the race overall tonight.
It's a very interesting track, this place is, and I gotta first say congrats to Kevin. He raced me entirely clean that last lap, and I'm proud to see another first time winner in it. Well, for this season, like he definitely earned that. But this track, it definitely wore your tires out quick if you're trying to attack it. I learned that the first few laps that if I would roll the corner back, I could save tires, but once I was back in the pack, I couldn't really save anything.
And we saw you earlier this season getting that win at Watkins Glen. Do you feel like that road course success kind of translated into this one? With Indy not being, obviously it's an oval, but being somewhat similar to road courses, or was this completely just a different animal to you?
I'm definitely a big fan of road courses, and any track that doesn't necessarily drive like an oval, like Darlington, of course here, and like Phoenix, those type of tracks are those that I feel like how I break into a corner and how I drive the track gives me a chance to at least finish well. Not quite win, but at least gives me a fighting shot.
Well, man, you had a great first round in the playoffs, and your rookie season still looking strong in the 06. We look forward to seeing what you can do next round. But before we let you go tonight, you got any friends, any family, any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I give a couple shout outs here. definitely want to give out a shout out to my little brother Dustin with his company On the Hood Customer Club. Of course, Matco Tools, my tool guy Roy Salisbury, and on the deck lid of the truck, I got Batsumer Speedway and all of my friends that work with me there. Can't forget my teammates, Mike and Dave. They helped me out a lot here, and of course, my older brother Bobby. Can't thank him enough because he was the reason why I got into iRacing. So every time I do good, it just makes me feel better that he got me into this. So it's always a good feeling to have family there with you.
Yeah, it's really cool to see the family aspect you guys have going on over there at Zooyost. But man, we look forward to seeing what you can do next week. But go have fun celebrating with your teammates on a epic run here tonight. You almost got it.
Thank you, guys. I'll catch you next week.
All right, buddy. Take care. Well, that was Blair Holloman, who came 8 thousandths of a second to winning this race tonight for the Hoosier 110. But the man of the hour who did get that win is Kevin Winker in that 42 truck. Kevin, it's your first win here in SRN, and you do it in absolutely epic fashion, winning by 8 thousandths of a second. Tell us how you're feeling, man.
Well, first of all, if it wasn't for that last caution, I would have finished 30th. I somehow screwed up the fuel mileage, and I had to pit there with 8 or 9 to go. And then I thought, well, here it goes, you know. Luckily, I got that caution, and then them guys, I think they took 2 tires, or I held on. But Queen Air was huge tonight, and then me and Blair just had that nice drag race to the finish there.
Well, teammate, I know you were saying that you were hoping that you were just going to, hang on or maybe grow that lead a little bit in the Tier 2 playoff and the point standings, and you've done more than that, getting that win. But what was going through your mind throughout that final green-white checker that we're kind of taking a look back here on the screen, actually? I mean, you opened up that decent lead there, but then Holloman just making that huge charge on that final lap. What were you thinking there coming out of Turn 4?
Yeah, I seen them get side by side there, and that was the best case for me. And then I think I overdrove one of the turns. I don't know which one. Kind of got up, and then he got my draft, and then I was just trying to side draft him back and forth, just like super speedway, and I held on for it. So.
Well, you kind of got yourself off strategy, like you said. You were going to finish 30th if that caution didn't come out. What kind of made you go down that road? As it seemed like you pit with a little bit of time on that first pit stop. You might have had some fuel left. Were you just trying to get off strategy with the rest of the field?
Nah, honestly, I wasn't thinking. I should have stayed out about 3 more laps, but I just wasn't thinking. I was like, I got to pit, so luckily it all worked out for me.
It happens to the best of us, man, and we love seeing first-time winners here. We don't get to talk to you as much as a lot of guys, and you put a lot of work in here at SRN, and we love seeing you park it in victory lane tonight. We're just taking a look one more time as you fly down the front stretch, just ever so much enough room to beat out that 06 by a nose. But before we let you go, you got any friends, any family, any sponsors you want to give a shout out to, Kevin?
Just my fiance. She supports me through all this, watches all my broadcasts. And then Blair for that nice, clean finish. Everybody raced clean tonight, so my teammates at Striker Motorsports, Travis, for letting me come on this year and drive for him. And then you guys in the broadcast booth, you guys kill it every week. And then Sean and Tripp and everybody else that makes this league just go around. It's awesome to be a part of. Yeah,
well, it's a team effort here at SRN. You guys put on a great show out there, and it helps us up here in the booth. And you did so today, man, parking it in victory lane. So go have fun celebrating with the fiance, with the teammates, with whoever. But have a good night nonetheless.
Thank you. You guys as well.
All right, Brandon. Well, that was our winner. We're looking at this finish on screen right now, and I would say that is no more than a foot separation between noses there.
Yeah, that is that's a tight one. And I was saying early on, maybe about 5-6 laps to go, that it feels like an Indy 500 where you don't necessarily want to be in the lead, or else it's going to be real close and possibly set you up to lose that kind of a drag race. And we see how close that is. That finished like an Indy 500 type of race with that huge run that Holloman had, and just unbelievably close. It's a yard of bricks that's left at the start-finish line. It was less than that. That was the deciding factor for these two.
Yeah, and it's just, you're coming down that straightaway, Kevin Winker's shoes, and it is the longest 5 or 10 seconds of his life, it seems like, as it's just the longest drag race to this start-finish line, and he squeaks out the 06.
Well, we got something to follow now tomorrow.
Yeah, wow. I don't know how we follow that up in the Xfinity Series here, but before we do that, we're going to have to get to what's next week for these Truck Series drivers. It's week 1 action of the round of 10. Not sure if we're going to be able to get those standings for you tonight, as there is some other admin activity happening here in the Truck Series. So going to be a little bit before we get those final numbers, but we will have them for you next week on the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show. But there you see it, week 1 action of the round of 10 at Phoenix Raceway. And Brandon brought up a good note to Brad Herman during his post-race interview. It's a new layout. They updated it here in iRacing finally to the new Phoenix that we see now in the championship race. So it's going to be a bit of a learning curve for everybody.
Yeah, and I know in the Truck Series last year that we had that race at Phoenix on the older configuration of it. We did see a ton of cautions. I think I somehow got involved in about 14 of the 15 or however many that was. So hopefully the new layout means a little bit better of a night for a lot of guys out there. But either way, getting that round of 10 kicked off at the track that ends the real life season for everybody. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic, and we'll see that track play out this weekend in on the actual races, and then we're going to follow it up here at SRN a few days later, starting with the trucks on Wednesday night.
Yeah, it'll be a great race for the first race of the round of 10 in the trucks. But we got a first race in the round of 11 tomorrow in the Xfinity Series. We're going to be right back here at Indianapolis. That's going to be the Hoosier 150. And yeah, like we mentioned, we got 11 drivers. An extra one, I don't know his name, managed to squeak his way into the next round. So we're going to have a little bit of extra battling out there to make it into that final 5. It's going to be an epic race, hopefully, just like tonight.
Yeah, I got that little birthday. There we go, round of 11. I got that little birthday bonus there to get you in there. No, that was a great showing of how every single point matters, especially the bonus points, how that kind of plays out. So a great job by you last week to make sure that you extended that to the round of 11. Not the first time we've had more drivers in a round of a playoff than intended with ties, and you're getting to take advantage of that here, getting that new life, and see how it goes tomorrow night at Indy.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. So we're going to have a clean slate. Everybody wiped back to even points in this next round, but some big heavy hitters looking to make their way into that final 5. You're going to catch it tomorrow, November 4th at 8:30 p.m. Central Time and 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you know when we go live here on Speed Racing Network. But that's going to do it for us tonight. For myself, my co-host Brandon Domain, and my producer Sean Griffith, we wish you a good night and go faster.